But let's get to the big three first.
Number 3.
So the non-farm number for November came in hotter than expected, 64,000, better than expected. Let me change my phrasing there. We also had the unemployment rate tick up to 4.6%.
Job numbers are in. We're going to look at the economic numbers and what the delay meant with the shutdown. What does it say about the state of the economy? While a CEO has a message for all Americans, and that is take responsibility for your life and career and stop complaining. I love it.
Number 2.
I would say I think Rob Reiner is a great patriot. Do I agree with some of or many of his ideas? No. But he doesn't agree with me either, but he also respects my patriotism.
The great James Woods' best friend was Rob Reiner, or certainly a mentor. Rob Reiner and his wife were killed allegedly by a drug-fueled son of theirs. We begin to get more of the facts as tributes pour in and the grisly details on the crime surface.
Number 1.
President Trump has a full plate of tragedies or near tragedies to deal with as the holiday season proceeds. Authorities in Los Angeles say they have thwarted a terror plot to explode bombs in several places on New Year's Eve. Overseas, at least 15 were killed in Australia in a Hanukkah-related shooting against Jewish people in Sydney. And 2 American service members and 1 civilian are dead after an attack in Syria.
Unbelievable, right? And that's just the top of Brett Baer's special report show. Terror everywhere. A plot-fueled one foiled in Los Angeles. Good. Aftermath of an ISIS attack being examined in Australia, and the brown killer is still on the loose. Some say he screamed out Allah Akbar before opening up fire with his 9mm gun. Marcus, I want to talk about the job numbers too, but just as an American, as you see this stuff unfold this weekend, what were you thinking?
Well, I'm really saddened by it, particularly at the beginning of Hanukkah. You look at everything that's happening in the world and, having respect for people's beliefs and having respect. I'm Lebanese. I've talked about it many times. I'm married to a Jewish woman, and having respect for people seems to have left the room. It's a sad day in this world, not just this country.
But it's easy to generalize about a religion. But I also saw one of the heroes in the Australia shooting was a Syrian-born man who moved to Australia in 2006 and saw a man with a gun shooting at people unarmed and then hit him from the blind side, which took tremendous guts. And he took 5 bullets in doing it.
I was surprised he didn't shoot him when he grabbed the gun. But the level of humanity, I think, is more exciting and more encouraging. And we need more people to stand up for what's right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the other things that are less important, not life or death, but maybe for a party. So when the new job numbers come in, 64,000 added. They expected 45,000, unemployment of 4.6%. The market slightly down. Your reaction?
Well, we still have a rising unemployment number at 4.6%. It's not a good number. It's not a bad number relative to what it was like years ago, but it's not a good number. And, I think the market's going to respond negatively today. They're concerned about it. We have a hawkish sort of a Fed environment where people think that the rate cuts are probably, done for a while. The unemployment numbers tell me that people are starting to lay people off. What's that number going to look like after the holidays? We know there's always a surge in employment after the holidays in January. Are people going to start to lay off people at a faster pace? Is the Fed going to be late again? Late again.
That's what President Trump says. A couple of things. How much of the job shedding I would like to see is AI? How much is it people saying, I'm going to stand pat to see what the next year looks like, as opposed to it's bad or it's good? Do you think a lot of people who in charge don't know?
I think there's a combination of everything. Look, AI is not a job killer. It's a job mover, meaning that people are going to need to find themselves getting into different work. And I think that's fine. We've seen that over the course of history. So I don't worry about that. We haven't heard this word used yet. But are we going into stagflation? Are we going into an environment where people just don't know what's going to happen? It's not up or down. And do companies ultimately say to themselves, I don't know what 2026 is going to be like. I'm looking at different tea leaves. Something's telling me it's going to be good. Something telling me it's going to be bad. So let me not hire anybody. Let me not spend a lot of money on CapEx. Let me wait, particularly when I get to January and I've gotten all of the accelerated depreciation in 25 that I needed. I've hired people. I built things. Do I go into 26 and say, I need to change everything? And the first thing I'm going to do is create a hiring freeze.
So
I would do it.
So you'd be freezing.
I would be freezing only because I just don't know what's going to happen.
But what makes this more challenging than other years?
Well, 2025, when we entered 2025, we did not know about Liberation Day. We thought there were going to be more aggressive rate cuts. Those two things ended up being different than what we thought they were going to be. The economy isn't terrible. I want to stop talking about affordability and I want to start talking about cash flow. That's what affordability is the result of. People say, I have this much cash coming in, my wages aren't rising, or I'm losing household income because my wife or my husband got laid off, and I don't see the relief on food. I don't see the relief on housing. We're starting to see a little relief on food. I think there's going to be a little relief on housing with rates coming down. So a $250,000 mortgage is $1,500 a year cheaper than it was a year ago. But is that enough to make me feel good? I don't know. I don't think it is.
So
Democrats did a good job.
In what way?
They did a good job with their ground game and really convincing people that affordability is the biggest crisis that the country's seen in years. And they're not wrong from a technical standpoint that there's a problem. I don't think it's a crisis. But in Miami, where I'm from, to see a Democratic mayor get elected, she won on affordability.
So
did
couple of things.
Mamdani.
I mean, but for you as a business person, well, it's easy to say what a problem is. What have you done to fix it? What will you do to fix it? Have you heard anything except for raise taxes on successful people like you?
No, I think what I've done, unfortunately, is I've had to tighten up the amount of CapEx that we're spending, and I've had to tighten down the number of people that we're employing, and that's just a fact. And
no, but I'm just saying, for example, have you heard Democrats say what they would do to make the country more affordable?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
We're not hearing any plan. All we're hearing is they found a soundbite. They stole it from the president, in my opinion, because that's what he won on. They stole it, and they're running away with it. And rather than them saying there's an affordability problem, we want to do X, Y, and Z. We want to deal with this on food. We want to deal with this on housing. We want to deal with this on energy prices. They're saying none of those things except saying, look at those people. They made everything more expensive.
So a couple of things. Did you see the Wall Street Journal story when it said, why was everybody wrong about tariffs? And they compared Trump's predictions and Wall Street Journal's predictions and other experts' predictions about what tariffs were going to be. And they break it down. It's fascinating. And they say, look, the one thing Trump was really right about is the revenue brought in. They said, we don't think the revenue is significant that's been coming in. What they said is, the president said, I'm going to bring all manufacturing back. They haven't seen a lot of manufacturing come back because with the cheap wages overseas and in places like Indonesia and other places, they haven't seen a massive reshoring of things. But it has not collapsed. The economy has not caused a recession. And if you look at the people who were quoted in there in April, they're like the who's who of business. So Trump was right with a lot of it. And the one thing that he was wrong on was immediately bringing manufacturing back. I don't
think he's wrong. I just want to challenge that.
Right. But yet.
Takes a minute. Everybody, you don't build factories, clear trees, build land, right? Put up a building, hire people, put in the automation. Come on, it takes a couple years. It is true that people are really contemplating building and manufacturing more in this country than they have in a very long time. He is not wrong about that. What he was really wrong about, from my opinion, is the lack of clarity around tariffs. Not the tariffs themselves, but on again, off again, this much, that much, up and down. Businesses don't know how to forecast their cash. He's not wrong about tariffs. Even as a business person, I believe in the concept of tariffs.
I've also talked to people and they said there's one thing the president could do right away to make an impact is update the USMCA, which was expiring anyway. So there's so much trade between Canada and Mexico. If you gave them certainty between those two trading partners, that would help get with certainty.
I think what we need, and by the way, those two countries would affect our food prices before anything else. If he could address food, he already addressed auto and nobody's talked about it. Everybody said, oh, we're going to change the emission standards. The emission standards deal that I think ultimately got cut in the back room is lower or stop raising your prices on cars. Once you start to do that and you look at the GDP, if car prices can come down, if food prices can come down, if interest rates can come down, then the cash flow for homeowners increases, essentially making things more affordable.
So I want to bring you to this quote. So the McDonald's CEO, do you know him?
I do.
So he says this: it's critical for Americans to take ownership of their professional journeys and make things happen for yourself. He said, waiting for doors to open is a mistake. The advice I would give is this: Remember, nobody cares about your career as much as you do. So the idea that there's somebody out there who's looking out for you, who's going to make sure that you get the opportunity, who puts you in the right thing, great if it happens. But at the end of the day, nobody cares more about your career than you do. Take control.
Unless it's your mother. Your mother probably cares,
yes.
But everybody else doesn't care. And I'm disappointed that people are demonizing, vilifying him for saying, take responsibility for your professional career.
I didn't know that he was getting blowback on that.
Oh, he's getting a ton of blowback. People are saying, like, that's not right. You shouldn't say those things. Those are too harsh. He's giving people the true reality that it isn't just professionally where people need to take ownership. It's in their lives in general. Nobody, not you, not me, not any of our listeners, are entitled to anything. But we've all been lucky. Every one of us have been lucky to have somebody open up a door, create an opportunity, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. What was the difference? What did you do with that opportunity?
Yep.
And when you fudged it up, nobody is going to clean up your mess.
And how many years did it take to get that opportunity, right? And a lot of times people give you that opportunity because you could help them. And you hire people for a living. So yeah, I want to give this guy or woman an opportunity, but you know what you're saying? I think they could excel for my company.
It's an investment in somebody. There's no gift in hiring somebody. There's an expectation that if you hire me, I'm going to give you a return on the currency that you give me. If I don't give you a return, you're going to look to somebody else to give me that return. You're giving me a shot, not anything else other than that.
So the one thing in the bigger picture is this. I think sometimes people look and go, yeah, I'm not getting opportunities. I got to blame the president. I got to blame my governor, usually the president.
Or blame my boss, or blame my spouse, or blame my neighbor, or blame somebody.
Right. And I know that you can't just say wholeheartedly, everyone's thoroughly in charge. You need a break. I got it. But if you know the breaks come from people that just are relentlessly pushing forward and all of a sudden one door opens, like, well, you got a big break. Yeah, but you know how many doors I pushed on before I got that big break?
But Brian,
I think we have to change the attitude a little bit.
I agree. But you know what? It's funny. You and I were talking about this before we came on air. The way people get opportunities and move up the pendulum is they make a difference. They show up before anybody else. They leave later than anybody else. They make sacrifices. They work the overtime that nobody else wants to work. They work the weekends nobody else wants to work. They get committed to making a difference and earning the right to get an opportunity the next time.
Yeah.
Earn. That's really what he was saying. And people that think everybody's just going to give somebody something, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a mindset. I want to talk more about cars when we come back. I saved some time at the end. Do you have to run right away?
No.
Okay, good. I want to talk about cars because Jim Farley did speak out about how they're reconfiguring what they're doing at Ford, and I think it's a bigger picture. Don't move. Brian Kilmeade Show.
Everyone knows the F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in our country for decades. And Larry, the hybrid is now 30% of our mix. And why? It's not just because you can tow or use better gas mileage. It's because you can also power your house with your F-150 hybrid or a job site. These hybrids are more than just economical now, and they've been more popular than we ever expected. Last month, our sales were flat. Our hybrids were up 30%. And now we're going to have hybrids across our range. Instead of investing that money in very large EVs that won't be profitable, we're going to give Americans more affordable vehicles built here in America that are going to save them money.
So they're getting rid of the F-150 Lightning electric Ford pickup truck. I actually went out to Ford and I got a ride in it, and so it was self-driving. They said it was the future. Jim Farley was with me, showed me how they were building it, and now he says, yeah, that was a mistake. Nobody wanted it, and now I don't have to build it because Joe Biden's not in office anymore, so he changed to a hybrid and back to gas and oil trucks and diesel trucks. Marcus Lemonis is here. I almost feel bad for the car industry because, Democrat comes in, you better up standards, get ready for the electric car. Republicans come in and go, I don't know who told you that.
Well,
so there a little bit of...
But there were some rebates. There were some tax incentives to buy an electric vehicle.
Gone.
Okay, and so once those went away, and these auto manufacturers started to think about the elasticity curve around selling passenger cars and light-duty trucks, they started to realize that the costs had exploded. If you look at 2019 to now, some of the prices are up 40, 50, 60%. And so they're thinking about how do we address affordability? President Trump, and I don't know why nobody's gotten this messaging right, knew that prices had largely been driven by this no gas, electric concept where these manufacturers were pouring billions of dollars into that. They needed to get a return on investment. They needed to build all these infrastructures, and it rose their overall fixed costs. And when you raise fixed costs, your build and materials of every single vehicle goes up. Therefore, the prices go up. You take all those things away. In theory, those prices should come down or at least stop rising.
Right. So what do you think it'll happen? I also think with the big, beautiful bill, you could write off auto loans. So that'll
interest.
Yeah, interest. So that will be something that could probably get people to the dealership.
Let's say it this way, right? Pickup trucks are the most popular sold vehicle in America. They are very expensive. We're trying to promote tradesmen. We're trying to promote transportation, workers, plumbers, electricians. They all need trucks. It's actually hurt the profession. If you can make pickup trucks less expensive, you will actually incentivize all of those jobs that rely on them.
And they said they're building their first new auto plant in decades, a couple of decades in South Carolina.
Yep.
So, and again, I was at the F-150 Lightning. I was there in Michigan, and then I was down south. We did a live remote with him. He says, "Look, we're making F-150 Lightnings," and it turns out people didn't really want them. They didn't want to pay for them. They didn't want the electric truck. So now they're out of that business. I think the communication with the president is helpful.
Did you ever drive an electric vehicle? You ever driven one?
Yeah.
Did you own one?
No.
I owned one for a very split second. And the problem was anytime I went on the road, I had battery anxiety. What would happen if my battery ran out? And I think when people are trying to do work and travel and you're a traveling salesman, you just can't do it.
Marcus Lemonis, great to see you.
You too, buddy.
So let's bring in one of the best in the business. He is the police chief. He's the Nassau County Police Chief right here in New York, Patrick Ryder. Commissioner, welcome back.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
All right, Commissioner, first off, when you hear about the Brown situation, I'm, as a civilian and who has covered a lot of this stuff, I couldn't be more frustrated. Number one, when you do a press conference, we're trying to cover it, you got to get the audio right. And I know you're worried about finding the criminal. I get it. But if you're going to address the press, we got to be able to hear you, especially with the media. Number two, have you ever started a press conference and said, yeah, I have a description of the suspect. It's just not up and ready yet? I thought that was an embarrassment too. And there seems to be friction between the FBI and the Rhode Island police. Your thoughts?
There does seem to be a lot of friction. That's without a doubt. And you can hear that with their press conferences. More importantly, when a shooting like this occurs, any leader of any law enforcement agency must speak to their boss, my boss, County Executive Bruce Blakeman. He got a briefing that morning about what happened at Brown and immediately said to me, what are we doing for our schools? What are we doing with our colleges? We have a policy in place. We do the outreach. We try to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and we're going to react by sending extra resources until we find out what the shooting is all about. Obviously, they threw the eggs all in one basket, arrested somebody as a person of interest, let that person go, and now there's being a lot of follow-up being done now.
When you see the video that we have, walking briskly, tightly around a corner, and then you see him in front of a fence, looks like just a typical white picket fence, and they say he's 5'8" and he's husky. And we see the video, unless he's wearing a fat suit, he's way overweight. He seems to be walking the same pace. The experts think it's the same guy. So when you and that's the best that we have. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, they should have put out a better description. They should have released the video right away. But again, they were already hooked into one person. If you look at Nassau County, the way we deploy our technology, again, because our county executive, Bruce Blakeman, gives us the funding to go and get these items to make sure that you're secure. That's the top of the game. You got that many cameras, you should be able to pick that up and through AI, be able to track the movements of that person. You put in a description, the cameras do the work for you. And if that is the state-of-the-art cameras that we're deploying here now, is exactly what we would use in that situation.
So what does it tell you that this guy seemed to have gone through the door that you didn't leave a pass key for, which is crazy? I don't know. I can't move through my building, as you know, without a pass key. If I forget my ID, I literally am stranded in the building and to get in the building. But so for some reason at Brown, you could get into that door, and he went right to room 166, and he screamed something out. And people say it was Ali Akbar. And that's others say, well, it was so loud, we don't remember. So I think they're being politically correct there. We're going to see how that comes out. What does it tell you that the guy went right up, The 5'8" husky guy went right up to that building, shot 160 to room 166, and had a 9mm gun.
It is definitely a targeted event. They went after those group of people for some reason, whether it's a past student, whether it has to do with finals. They're coming up with all different reasons because we don't know yet until you get that individual. But again, controlled access is about how you get in any building. You don't get in a government building. You don't get into any news feed media out there. You don't get into that building without showing access, pass security, give the ID card, and then get your pass to get in. And then somebody has to come and get you. That's how you do controlled access. To let somebody walk into a building that freely, that's a problem up there.
Evidently, there was a Jewish professor there, there was well-known Jewish professor there, and she just happened not to be in that day. I want you to hear the Rhode Island Police Chief, cut 15.
We're learning more about his movements as we gather additional video evidence. And that video evidence has been coming in at a much greater degree than it was 12, 24, 36 hours ago. Why, you ask? Some people were away for the weekend. Some of these places were businesses. So what the team is doing, there are a bunch of teams doing different things, exploiting electronic evidence, exploiting physical evidence, meaning forensic evidence from the crime scene, canvassing the neighborhoods. And those are the threads that when you pull them will open this case up.
So that was the Attorney General. I was wrong. So explaining what he's doing. Do those threads sound viable? Something you would do? Is there something he didn't mention?
No, the first thing you do is video canvas. They control the first 500 cameras. So they should be obviously looking at their videos. Then they're going to look at the outside videos. And yes, some businesses are closed, but that's when you call them to come in. You bring those people in because it's all about time. This shooter's on the loose now. He's been on the loose for several days. That should have been put down already and been out there and all that video reviewed so they can get all hands on deck so we can get this guy captured.
This is probably too general a question, but when people shoot like this, when this guy comes in and it's like you said, it's targeted, knows where he was going, do they usually stay in the area? I mean, with that, this isn't a gang activity. It doesn't seem like a serial killer. I'm wondering, is there a characterization of a shooter like this?
So most active shooters, as we know, 75% commit their own suicide at the scene. But if they do get out, they're not staying within the first 24 hours. They might have to lay the Boston bombers. They stayed in town because they were on the run. Boston was pursuing them and kept them off guard. But when you look at other type of shootings, if you're giving me a window to go, I'm going to go. And now it's going to be harder to find that individual.
So I want to bring you to Australia because I think it relates here. We have a big Jewish population. They have 50,000 in Sydney, 170,000 in their entire country. Israel's been in constant contact with their prime minister saying, we are getting an uptick of terror activity in your country. He didn't feel as though they were taking it serious. I know personally that you've gone to Israel and they've trained and they're looking to train at your facility in New York. So your thoughts about that targeted attack on Jews celebrating Hanukkah in Sydney when two gunmen, father and son, with long rifles, armed to the teeth, just start shooting. As a police commissioner, you never want to get that call at 4 p.m. with 1,000 people on the beach. Your thoughts about this event that took place and what your takeaway is?
So you hope you can always stop these shootings, but if not, you got to mitigate it as quickly as possible. If you looked at, I think they said it was 4 police officers assigned. And again, I'm going with the media reported. 4 police officers assigned to 4,000 people. Obviously, it's got to be staffed better. When you take a group, any group that is a target, like the Jewish community, you got to make sure there's extra protection. I spoke with the county exec that morning again after what happened in Australia, and we started to put pieces together, plans that we can make sure. We had 25 events just last night of the lighting of candles. So we got to make sure they're covered appropriately. But look at the back. Every time there's an active shooter, you go back and you look and somebody knew something, somebody saw something. 2019, they made this guy, they targeted the son as a possible ISIS sympathizer. In just November of 2025, the father and son went to the Philippines, a hotbed for ISIS activity. And then only in November, they got back around the 28th. And then as quick as this event occurred, you see the attack by the two of them. Should somebody have been watching? Should they have been under somebody's control? Should they have stopped them from coming back from the Philippines? Should they have been and let the guy have rifles? The most strictest rules in the world are in Australia when it comes to gun rights. But this guy, the guy that's on a visa, And his son, who's a sympathizer, turned around and he was able to have access to hunting rifles. Unheard of.
So I want you to hear this guy, Mal Lanyon. He's the New South Wales Police Commissioner, Cut 5.
There has been reports in the news about our two offenders travelling to the Philippines last month. I can confirm that they did travel to the Philippines. The reasons why they went to the Philippines and the purpose of that and where they went when they were there is under investigation at the moment. I also confirm that the vehicle which is registered to the younger male contained IEDs, but I also confirm that it contained 2 homemade ISIS flags.
So ISIS flags and 2 homemade IEDs. So the other thing is he goes to the Philippines. Look, Philippines are huge. There's like countless islands in the Philippines. But if you have an American, let's say a visa holder, and they're going to Egypt, certain areas of Egypt, or they decide to go to Afghanistan or Pakistan, do you guys get alerted by that from immigration? And I'm wondering, Australia's a sophisticated country. They certainly don't spare any money over there. The place is beautiful. And I'm wondering, isn't there a terror units that might highlight if people go to a place, not just the Philippines, but place in the Philippines that are this concerning?
As of this call right now that we're on, our Terror Tuesday meets every single Tuesday and discuss international, national, local events, so we stay on top of it. You have to pay attention to the little things. So yeah, when there's a travel by somebody that's already been on the watch list, he should never come off the watch list. We should be watching him. The flag was waving the minute they got on the flight to Philippines. And then when they came back, somebody should have put eyes on them. They should have been stopped. They should have been interviewed about their travel and find out what they did over there. That wasn't done in this case. And that's where the problems are. Every shooting, like I said, you go back, you look at it, the history of it, somebody knew something, somebody saw something, nobody said anything. And that's the problem.
All right, we're talking to Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder. So the other one is this plot that we found out from the FBI yesterday. 4 alleged members of a radical pro-Palestinian, anti-law enforcement, anti-government, anti-capitalist group were picked up in the Mojave Desert. They were working on their bombs that were supposed to go off on New Year's Eve throughout Los Angeles and Orange County. How clued into are you about this? And what does it tell you about the FBI? They were able to monitor this, and something like this happening in New York.
So those that get their clearances, I have a top secret clearance. You get your briefings from the FBI. But one of my greatest partners in law enforcement is the NYPD. The NYPD has people all over the world and are a state and local agency that work hand in hand with us in Nassau County. So we'll get our information from the FBI side, we'll get it from the NYPD side, and then we'll look to see how it affects us. The recipe for disaster is the self-radicalization that goes on through the internet, and then those people that are able to communicate as they act out. And we can't stop that because communications world out there, meaning the internet and the phone services, they don't cooperate with law enforcement. They're more concerned about violating somebody's
privacy,
a right who's a terrorist or believed to be a terrorist, and giving us a subpoena that's written by a court to give us that activity, and they won't give it to us. They make it so hard on us to communicate.
So now, have you heard of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, a little-known pro-Palestine, anti-law enforcement, anti-government, anti-capitalist group? Do you know these guys? Have you heard that?
Absolutely. And that's something that we discuss at Terror Tuesday. So we brief all of our agencies that are attending. We have over 60 people that attend this, along with Congressman Peter King, who's in there. We've had Congressman D'Esposito sit there when he was a sitting congressman. And of course, our county executive is always getting briefed up on these things. This is so important that we keep sharing that information amongst each other. You and I are talking about it, but most people don't even know what it was until they heard what you said. So getting the message out there, letting them understand who these groups are. Again, those radical left-wing terrorists that are coming in this country are a problem for us. And because of the open borders of the last couple of years, it's even a bigger problem for us. We don't know who's here. So we're doing our part, cooperating with ICE to make sure that we can get them removed. But what damage has already been done that they've radicalized other people?
So the amount of anti-Semitic protests, pro-Palestinian protests are countless. Long Island and New York City. I mean, if there was an Al-Qaeda a pro-Al-Qaeda protest, I'm sure we'd take pictures of all these people and say, look, they're going to be a problem. What have we done to find out who's taking part in the pro-Palestinian protest? I mean, what can you do legally?
Yeah, so legally, any group that is out there that is going to protest, and there's some people that break the law, we obviously make that arrest, and then we can further that investigation. Those that are out there that are screaming anti-Semitic and are anti-Jewish comments, we can also monitor them. The county executive, as you know, is a Jewish county executive. We have one of the largest Jewish populations in Nassau County here in the country. And so we have a very high level targeted look at our potential victims and what we've done to secure them between technology, between cooperation, between communication is the key to how we keep them safe.
Commissioner, thanks so much. I still have two. I left two cases in the locker room. There's so much going on, sadly. Commissioner Patrick Ryder, Nassau County, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Miranda Devine comes in now. Miranda, before we get to Australia, and I really want to get your insight on that, I do want to find out, why are they so reluctant to say what this guy yelled when he was in the classroom? They say it's not really sure, to different accounts. We're getting a lot of accounts online saying he yelled Allah Akbar. What would be the reluctance to say something like that?
Well, I think the reluctance tells you that he probably did yell Allah Akbar, and they're just being, playing to type, Brown University, refusing to acknowledge that to the public because, again, they're afraid of Islamophobia, which, rarely, if ever, rears its ugly head. It is anti-Semitism that rears its ugly head. And, of course, in the absence of information, as per usual, conspiracy theories and just theories rush in. Apparently the professor who normally takes that class is Jewish. She wasn't there, but there was another sort of stand-in. But and also there is talk that the beautiful young woman who was murdered, she was the deputy head of the Republican club, that she had been targeted a la Charlie Kirk. Now, we don't know if any of that is true, but I just am amazed that it doesn't hurt the police investigation to tell us what this person yelled. Surely they know. I mean, they've botched a lot in this investigation, but surely they know that. And you just look at the mayor and the governor and the president of the college. They have all been like deer in the headlights. They are not handling this well at all.
No question. And now they're fighting with the FBI, and for the most part, that's detrimental to any investigation, obviously. So I guess we're going to see what's going to happen. A couple other things. I want you to hear from this attorney general, and they got the mayor also speaking, who is really a colossal waste of time. I am so tired of these guys congratulating each other while this guy is still let on loose. It's sickening. But here's Peter Naroa, the attorney general, Cut 15.
We're learning more about his movements as we gather additional video evidence. And that video evidence has been coming in at a much greater degree than it was 12, 24, 36 hours ago. Why, you ask? Some people were away for the weekend. Some of these places were businesses. So what the team is doing, there are a bunch of teams doing different things, exploiting electronic evidence, exploiting physical evidence, meaning forensic evidence from the crime scene, canvassing the neighborhoods. And those are the threads that, when you pull them, will open this case up.
So they're doing everything, but it seems like their backs against the wall right now. I see them going through the snow. I see them releasing additional video, $50,000 reward. But it looks like they have 800 cameras, and none were trained on the right place. Well, this guy knew exactly where to go. Number two is, I guess, their security system, emergency security system, also didn't work.
Well, it's incredible, really, that in this day and age of uber surveillance of everybody all the time around a university, you wouldn't have cameras that would catch someone walking in there with a gun to slaughter people, whether it was a target assassination or, a mass shooting gone wrong or some sort of Islamist terrorism. We don't know any of it. And, let's just hope and have faith that this person is caught. It's early days, I guess, and you have to hope that the FBI can track this person down. But it just seems that the entire case was bungled from the beginning. And considering Brown University is so wealthy, you would think they would have done more to protect their students in an atmosphere of, the last 2 years, extreme anti-Semitic attacks on campuses across America, just by itself. And then, after the Charlie Kirk assassination, you would think that they would be concerned about campus security since Charlie Kirk was assassinated on campus in Utah. Why wouldn't any just rational university all around the country do something and look at their own security arrangements? Seems like Providence, Rhode Island is just very passive and very complacent. And I think the president's behaviour in front of the cameras shows us why.
So I want to talk about Australia, and the Prime Minister of Israel didn't waste much time saying, I told them over and over again, the anti-Semitism in their country needs to be addressed. Iran-sponsored terror attacks are very much, that's some of the chatter that they're hearing, and I guess they feel as though the Australian Prime Minister wasn't listening. You wrote about this. Here's what he was talking about yesterday, cut 3.
The very nature of our gun laws means that they are only as strong as the weakest link, which is why we wanted to make sure that they followed Premier Minz's lead in committing to strengthening the gun laws that were, of course, created in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy some 30 years ago.
So he thinks the gun laws are the issue. The guy went to the Philippines, seems to have trained with ISIS. They were investigating him in 2019, the father-son terror team. And now he says, well, the gun laws. Now, I don't know how they got 6 guns, especially when they were under terrorist surveillance, but I'm pretty sure my takeaway wouldn't be the gun.
It's just a joke. The only people that don't have guns in Australia are law-abiding citizens. The criminals and the gangbangers have tons of guns. Just a month earlier, right near where these terrorists live, there was a gun battle, 50 rounds from an AK-47 fired into a house. So it's not true that those gun laws are keeping people safe when it comes to criminals and terrorists. The only people who don't have guns are law-abiding citizens. And the coddling and the pandering of anti-Semites by that Prime Minister that you just heard has been really despicable. And now it's a classic leftist tactic. You see it here every time there's a shooting. The left comes out and they talk about gun control. New York City is just as gun-controlled as Australia, and there are still bad guys who come into Times Square just last year shooting, in the Bronx, there's gun battles all the time.
He had IEDs in the car. They had IEDs in the car. I'm pretty sure IEDs are against the law.
And ISIS flags. And this is the other problem, is that just, in Syria, where those Iowa National Guardsmen were just killed by an ISIS terrorist, there's ISIS again. In Australia, these are ISIS-inspired terrorists. We are seeing the ugly face of ISIS arise again. And if you remember, in Donald Trump's first term, he all but eradicated ISIS, which Obama had allowed to fester, called a JV team. And it was only because Trump had done what he did to Iran and quelled what was going on in the Middle East and was tough that ISIS was eradicated. But they weren't eradicated. Clearly, they're coming back, and it's terrifying. If you remember, before President Trump was elected, we were seeing people being, slaughtered on air, on video. We were seeing people being burned alive in cages, lowered into pools. It was this widespread torture and terrorism to strike fear into the hearts of everyone in the country. It's back, and we've just seen that in Australia, and it is beyond reprehensible that Australia's version of the CIA, it's called ASIO, had this guy on their radar, the Sun, as being involved with ISIS, being involved with a radical preacher, and there are many of them, I can tell you, and have been for a couple of decades in southwest Sydney, where these people are from, which is the highest Muslim presence in Australia. And these radical preachers, they They glorify gang rape. They excuse it. They are also all about Sharia law. And in New York, you've got Zohran Mamdani was so bold that during the election campaign, just a few days before the election, he went and posed with a radical imam who wants Sharia law all over this country.
It's so. Do you think this is a wake-up call and Australia will start making reforms? Especially, do you think we'll see a massive wake-up call with immigration in Europe, the UK, as well as Australia? Do you think the population has had it?
Well, the population's had it for a long time, but, you know, I mean, the Bataclan, how long ago was that? The Bataclan massacres in Paris.
Yeah.
You know, the gang rapes in England, the grooming gangs in England, the gang rapes in Sweden. You know, young girls, women are the main victims of this mass immigration of male Muslims from the Middle East, military-aged males. They were supposed to be refugees, no women and children among them to speak of. And but the West, the people have had enough, and that's why you're seeing the rise of these right-wing groups in Germany, in Sweden, all over the world. But unfortunately, the elites who are in power ignore them. And unfortunately, in Australia, you're seeing the same thing, very left-wing administration, and they are talking now about gun control, and the PM Albanese even talked about the threat of right-wing extremism.
Yes.
When all of the anti-Semitic violence is coming from pro-Hamas fanatics.
Yeah, it is crazy. So we'll find out what that's going to happen if they do get their wake-up call that we know that they got. They just refused to answer it. Maybe now they're going to be forced to. I was shocked to see in Los Angeles, anti-capitalist, pro-Palestinian group. We got a brand new name to kick around now. So in the out in L.A., they stopped what would have been a attack on New Year's Eve. So the plot was really considering these people look relatively young, 4 alleged members of a radical pro-Palestinian group. They are called. They have a weird nickname. It is the Turtle Island Liberation Front. They're anti-government extremist group, and they planned on having horrific attacks. They were arrested in the Mojave Desert testing some of their explosives. So what does that tell you? All that talk about anti-capitalism, socialism now goes violent.
Yeah. And, you know, this is the deadly collusion of the left and Islamism, the far left and Islamism. And, you know, they really should have nothing in common because the left is into transgenders and the rest. And Islam, you know, Islamism is about murdering those people. But they have formed an alliance. And I think that's very dangerous because you're seeing now, I mean, this is one plot that's been foiled. There was an ISIS-inspired plot that was foiled that hardly anyone knows about in New Jersey last month. You know, the FBI is working on this constantly, and that's what counterterrorism is meant to be about, not as it was in the Biden administration to go after law-abiding traditional Catholics at Mass or parents at school board meetings objecting to their children being force-fed gender ideology, but that, or January 6 people, you know, Trump supporters who peacefully went to the Capitol and who were rounded up by the FBI in the biggest investigation ever. God knows what kind of opportunity cost that was under Biden because these groups will have been festering underground, and let's hope that the FBI today is better tooled under Kash Patel to confront these terrible risks.
Miranda Devine, thanks so much. New York Post columnist, Fox News contributor, host of Pod Force One. Thanks, Miranda.
Thank you.
We're fighting radical Islam. There's a form of Islam out there that requires the people who practice it to kill all the Jews, to kill us as Christians, and to purify Islam. We're in a religious war with radical Islam, no matter what the lady said. Gun control is not the answer in fighting ISIS. that doesn't get you anything but dead. ISIS is a terrorist group that was kicked out by al-Qaeda because they're too crazy for al-Qaeda.
Senator Lindsey Graham understands the war on terror and understands we can't take our eye off the ball, and I think the West has. Jonathan Greenblatt joins us now, CEO and National Director of the ADL and a great friend of the show. Jonathan, I just thought that would be a good soundbite to open up with because I think it echoes your thoughts.
Yeah, look, Brian, I think we are all devastated in mourning the 15 people who were gunned down in cold blood in the largest massacre that's ever taken place in Australia, certainly of Jewish people. Dozens more were injured, and this didn't happen in a vacuum. This didn't happen by chance. This attack was planned in cold blood by ISIS-inspired extremists. They gunned down an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor, grandparents. They gunned down a rabbi, a father of 5 with a 3-month-old baby. They gunned down a 10-year-old girl. The only crime these people committed was wanting to celebrate Hanukkah, was being Jewish. And the idea that your faith somehow makes you a target, that it somehow allows people to subject you to the most horrific slaughter and violence is inexcusable in any democracy, Australia, America, anywhere in this world.
Why do you think it's happening now? I mean, do you think this was going to happen October 7th or no October 7th? Do you think it seems so well worked, the reaction seems so well organized, misplaced, obviously, instead of saying, Israel, our heart goes out to you, lost 1,200 people and countless soldiers and retaliation's inevitable. They're protesting against you before the first incursion into Gaza. It just seems too organized to be random. What have you found out, Jonathan?
It is not random at all. So anti-Semitism, whether it's couched as anti-Zionism or anti-Judaism or whatnot, hatred of Jewish people has been intensifying for years. The ADL has been tracking the data domestically and globally. In Australia, since 10/7, it's over the last 2+ years, it's up almost 500%. And here in America, in 5 of the last 6 years, we've broken new records. Think about this, Brian. We used to have roughly 900 or so acts of anti-Semitism a year, things that we could measure and track with ADL. Now, over 9, it's up more than 1,000%. And so, yeah, there's a reason why groups like Students in Justice in Palestine were pushing out organizing toolkits and talking points on October the 8th. I don't know if they knew it was going to happen on the 7th, and I'm not saying that, but I am saying they absolutely, positively have been intensifying the rhetoric. They have been escalating their acts, and they have been coordinating the kind of actions we've seen all over America. Look, I'm here in New York, Brian, and just a few weeks ago in front of the Park East Synagogue, as Jewish people were walking into the building, all right, you had protesters screaming, swearing at them, spitting on them, threatening violence, and saying out loud, "We are going to make you afraid." And then 2 weeks later, the same thing happened in Los Angeles at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. And by the way, the people who committed that act at Wilshire Boulevard Temple, they were affiliated with the same left-wing radical group, FBI, yesterday, and they announced the arrests of 4 or 5 people who were allegedly committing a terror plot set for New Year's Eve. They were from the Turtle Island Liberation Front, and those people had ties to the activists, quote unquote, who defiled and vandalized the synagogue just 2 weeks earlier.
So, and we know that group was just arrested. They had 4 of them arrested in the Mojave Desert, and they had a January 1st plot plan in Los Angeles and Orange County.
That's correct. And these are the same people who are screaming about globalizing the Intifada. These are the same people who are making wild claims against Israel, against Jews, against America. I mean, Turtle Island is the term that they use to refer to the United States. It's absurd and it's dangerous. And here I think what we see, Brian, and what all your listeners need to know is words have consequences. And so the failure to call out extremism, the failure to push back on anti-Semitism, it's not free. It has a cost, and the cost is the normalization of hate. It's the mainstreaming of extremism, and that's what happened in Bondi Beach this past weekend.
So it was amazing, too, is the hostage stories when they were saying that the Hamas was absolutely in contact with those college protesters, praising each other on a regular basis, with the direct Iran was praising the protesters. Is there been an investigation into this?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are the ADL. We are suing the Islamic Republic of Iran for the role they played on October the 7th. We're representing more than 200 Americans who are affected by the October 7th massacre. Either they are the families of people who were killed, or kidnapped, or wounded, or all of the above. And the fact of the matter is that we know that the Islamic Republic of Iran helped to train, helped to finance, and provided munitions to Hamas. And look, even in Australia, Brian, Prime Minister Albanese, with intelligence provided by the government of Israel, called out the fact that the Iranians were responsible for 2 prior terror attacks, the firebombing of a synagogue in Melbourne just over a year ago, as well as an attack on a kosher restaurant. Literally, the Prime Minister of Australia expelled the Iranian ambassador from his country, the first time that has happened since World War II, because the Iranians and the IRGC were involved in trying to commit terror attacks. So, yeah, there are definitely links. And yeah, they are not just problematic, they are downright terrorist.
So I want you to hear the Prime Minister yesterday, cut 2.
It would appear that there is evidence that this was inspired by a terrorist organisation, by ISIS. Now, some of the evidence which is being procured, including the presence of Islamic State flags in the vehicle that has been seized, are a part of that. Radical perversion of Islam is absolutely a problem. It is something that has been identified globally as a problem as well. ISIS is created by an evil ideology that has been called out, not just by the Australian government, but globally as well.
So, I mean, saying the right things, do you think he changes anything fundamentally?
Well, the truth is that Prime Minister Albanese has been weak on dealing with anti-Semitism, Brian, for a long time. The Australian Jewish community, ADL, and others have been calling this out for a long time. And of course, I don't think it's a big leap of faith to say that ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Muslim Brotherhood, these are radical extremist organizations. They do pervert the religion. I mean, it's notable that the guy who wrestled down the attacker, or one of the attackers, was a Muslim himself. Obviously, all Muslims aren't culpable, but the reality is that these extremist organizations need to be addressed head on. And look, we're doing this here at home. I mean, I got to say, Brian, the ADL, I don't think we can afford to sit still. We're working with communities across the country to help them secure their Hanukkah celebrations right now because Jewish people are afraid. They're afraid to go out and light the menorah in America. It's inexcusable. So we're coordinating with other NGOs. We're working with law enforcement. We're making sure the right security precautions are in place. But again, being Jewish shouldn't put a target on your back. And we need to do a better job of pushing back on these extremists once and for all.
All right. So I'll tell you talked about that hero that stepped up. So evidently in 2006, he went to Australia, so happy to get out of war-torn Syria. He was selling fruit in the area. The Hanukkah parishioners were coming by. He was selling them stuff. And then when the fighting took place, he decides to sneak up and get on the guy's peripheral on the side. And he takes the rifle away and then takes 5 shots, including one in the shoulder blade. He's recovering now in the hospital. I want you to hear from his cousin, cut 6.
We hope he will be fine. He's a hero. 100% he's a hero because what we see on the social media, he's 100% hero.
So no doubt about it.
Amazing.
Right? And doesn't it show you, if anyone who wants to broad swipe against all Muslims, you're wrong. That's not the case.
Totally wrong. Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that there are plenty of Muslims who want to push back on ISIS, push back on Muslim Brotherhood. By the way, Muslim Brotherhood has been banned in Saudi Arabia, banned in UAE, banned in other countries because they know that radicalism and extremism is dangerous. But we still must recognize the danger from those fundamentalists. And again, whether they're from Tehran or whether they're from Doha or whether they're from Istanbul, we need to push back. And I would encourage more of that to happen. And look, in the meantime, my message to Jewish people, Brian, is not to be afraid. I actually think this may sound counterintuitive, but the best response to anti-Jewish hate is to be more Jewish, to dance, to celebrate, to sing, to worship, and to be proud, not to allow the extremists and the haters to intimidate and terrorize us.
So Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish American, maybe ever, had this to say yesterday, on Sunday, after it became clear what happened in Australia. Cut 7.
And of course, I'm going to say a few words about the terrible shooting in Sydney, Australia. Okay? So, and first, of course, as I always say, no matter what, go Bills. They beat the Patriots today. It's a big deal.
I mean, can you say something more inappropriate?
I don't know. Look, it's unfortunate. I mean, the leader, it's hard for me to really respond to that. I think at best it was ill-timed. The reality is that we got to focus on the real issues here.
But he's got power. I'm talking to Jonathan Greenblatt now, who's powerful CEO and national director of the Anti-Defamation League. But he's got power. He should be standing up now. And he'd have a lot of people he wants to show leadership and keep his job. One way to show leadership and keep your job is to be aggressive against anti-Semitism. You wrote a book about it. Why is he embarrassed about it?
Yeah. Look, I really want to praise John Fetterman here. I think Senator Fetterman has been extraordinary in pushing back on the extremism within his own party. He's really, Richie Torres here from New York, again, been extraordinary in standing up against bigots in his own party. We need that on the left. We need, frankly, some on the right. We have people like Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, you just had on in the intro, has been an amazing voice against anti-Semitism. So we need more leadership from people even in unexpected places and in places you would expect, like the leader's office.
Right. And I want you, another guy standing up, too, is Ben Shapiro. Here he is, cut 14.
This has become a regular feature of Western life, attacks on people who are non-Muslim on the basis of their religion. This has become an unfortunate, recurrent feature of Western life because largely of the importation of radical Muslims and people who are then radicalized into the West.
And I think the West is getting a wake-up call, maybe too late. I think Donald Trump didn't need it, and he's putting that into play. He says right now, I'm going to hold off on all third world country immigrants because I have to find out who's coming in here.
Yeah, look, I get it. We all want safe borders. We all want strong borders. We want safe policy. We want to make sure that people who come to America love America or want to get to know and learn and love America. At the same time, like you mentioned, that Syrian immigrant is the one who stopped the killing or aborted even more killing in Australia. And, my parents were refugees. My grandparents are refugees. So I do think there's a need for sensible immigration policies to make sure that the people who come to America want to be a part of this country, want to learn the laws, learn the customs, learn the language. That all matters. And there's no reason to welcome extremists.
I hear you. Jonathan Greenblatt, thanks so much.
Always good to talk to you, Ryan. Thank you.